Well, as Parliament gets back into the swing of things, the Liberals do find themselves still trailing in public opinion polls, Conservatives still very much holding a commanding lead, but the Prime Minister continues to say that he will lead the Liberals into the next election. And to talk about all of this and the numbers that he's been looking at, we're now joined by David Coletto, the founder, the chair, and CEO of Abacus Data. David, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, Michael. Good to see you.
So listen, let's begin with the big numbers here, because despite putting housing in the front window, the Trudeau Liberals are still trailing Conservatives badly. As Parliament returns, just how are things standing right now?
So not much has changed since the end of the year. We've got the Conservatives well ahead of the Liberals nationally. They're at 40%, the Liberals are at 25%, and the New Democrats are at 20%. And that's more or less what we've seen, what a lot of other pollsters have seen for a number of months now. What's driving that, Michael, is I think two things. One is a real, I would say, sour mood out there. Only 1 in 4 Canadians think the country's headed in the right direction. The government's disapproval rating is close to the worst it's been, and people aren't thrilled with the Prime Minister himself, added to the fact that there's just a general broad and I think pretty deep sense of or desire for change. And those two factors, a tough economy for people, feeling anxious about it, plus a government that's been in office 8 years, is leading to 2024 starting very much as 2023 ended.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I guess troubling for the government is the fact that even in traditional Liberal strongholds, there seems to be no region where the Liberals are leading right now.
There isn't. You go from the west to the east, they're third in British Columbia, they're third in the prairies, they're 12 points back in Ontario to the Conservatives. In Quebec, it's the area where they're still, I would say, stronger, but they still trail the Bloc Québécois in our poll by 5 points. And then even in Atlantic Canada, where for months now, the Conservatives have been leading. Conservatives lead by 10 over the Liberals in a region, reminder, in 2025, in which the Liberals won absolutely every seat in.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting to hear you say that, because when I talk to Liberals, they're still, at least publicly, saying that when Canadians compare Trudeau and Poilievre, Trudeau, they argue, will still come out ahead. But your numbers seem to contradict that.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen, but I think it's unlikely to happen. And I think it's because people have a very clear idea of who Justin Trudeau is in their mind. They've seen him as Prime Minister. Most who don't like him say it's largely because they're just tired of him. And when we put them head to head and we say, okay, if your only choice was Mr. Trudeau or Mr. Poilievre, which would you prefer? Mr. Poilievre comes out ahead by 8 points, including among New Democrats, who 1 in 3 of those who voted NDP in the last election say they would prefer Mr. Poilievre over Mr. Trudeau. So that could happen. And I think a lot of Canadians haven't really given much thought to what a Conservative government would do. They don't have to make that choice right now. There's not likely an election for some time. But I think what's clear is I think most people are just tired of the Prime Minister. And I'm not sure that goes away even if the economy improves and people start feeling a little more optimistic about their own future.
Okay, except that the Prime Minister still says that he's going to lead his party into the next election. What would Justin Trudeau have to do and or prove to I guess, avert a disaster at the polls?
Well, I think the first thing is he's got to really demonstrate to people he's got a handle on the things that they're most worried about: the cost of living, housing, healthcare, even immigration is rising. In our poll, it's up 4 points in 2 weeks as a top issue. So he's got to have a handle on it. And I think most important, he's got to have a vision, a plan. We did some research at the end of last year that showed most Canadians think either the government has no plan or a bad plan to deal with those big issues. So that's job one. And job two, and I think they're starting to do this, they're trying to, I think, bring Mr. Poilievre maybe back down to earth by questioning his motives, tying him to Donald Trump. At the end of the day, if Justin Trudeau's going to win the next election, it's got to be because people think he's the better choice than Mr. Poilievre. And right now, most wouldn't say that's the case. Okay,
so what then is the challenge for the Conservative leader, and really, while we're at it, for the NDP leader?
So I think there's not much challenge for the Conservative leader. I think they've got to more or less keep doing what they're doing, reinforce the fact that Canadians want change. I think the thing that I would advise them perhaps to do more in 2024 is start to demonstrate to people that Mr. Poilievre and his team, and they're starting to do that, recruiting really good candidates to run. Imagine what a cabinet might look like and demonstrate they're ready for government. For the New Democrats, I think it's remain relevant, demonstrate that on the one hand you are achieving certain things by working with the Liberals, but also as they're trying to do, remind people that they are different from the Liberals and that when time comes for people to make a choice, if they want a progressive alternative to Mr. Poilievre, that Mr. Singh and the NDP are the best choice for them.
Okay, David, always appreciate the time. Thank you for this. That is David Coletto of Abacus Data.